Hello. I don't normally go live on my personal page. I'm usually doing it in my group, but I wanted to share this on my personal page today because so many people are always asking me, like, well, it's not like one question. That's why I'm struggling here as I get started. Um, I guess what I'm saying is they're always asking me questions that can be answered in these four books. And so what I wanted to do was share with you this because I'm always reading books, whether I'm actually reading it or I'm listening to an audio. Um, I'm always catching new books. And so it can be overwhelming to some people who either follow me or friends and family that talk to me and stuff. And they're like, oh my God, I can't read as many books as her. And so what I wanted to do was just tell you, like, these are the four books that I go back to. They're like my little study Bibles, okay? I go back to them over and over again. I reread them. I reference them just like I would a book you would in school. And so if you're limited on time or money, check these books out, okay? The first one is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, okay? The reason that this is so important is at a very elementary level, it teaches you about how your thoughts create the life that you're living, and it gives you practical steps to change it. And the reason I say elementary level is not like you have to be dumb to read this book or anything. It's just that when you're making huge life changes, like starting to take control of your thoughts, which feel like they're not even under your control, it's nice to have something simple, something that gives you time to implement the steps and not a book that's like, every chapter giving you brand new things to implement, because that's like, starting a brand new diet or something. It can be completely overwhelming for you. And so I love that book because it keeps it very simple. It also has a very awesome part in the back of it that was from her little blue book, if you've ever heard of that. And basically what it has is these different pages on it where you can look up a problem that you have. Like here it says rash or ringworm, like different things like that. Or there's headache and whatever in there. It's pretty extensive. And what it'll do is tell you what is most likely the thought process you're having that's causing it. And it'll give you an affirmation to change it. Now, all of those are suggestions. So you'll have to read the book and kind of get a feel for it yourself. But I love, love, love that book. And it also splits it apart. Like if you can't read it from beginning to end because you don't have time right now, but you have a specific problem, it splits it by chapter into things like health, finances, relationships, those sort of things. So it's really, it's nice in that way. You don't have to be able to read front to back on that one. Okay, the next book is kind of, okay, when books come with that stupid sleeve on them, I always throw them away. So maybe I'll turn it this way. Here you go. Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention. Now, what I love about this book is it's very similar to Louise Hay's book in that it's talking all about how your thoughts are creating it, but what he's really saying is it's the intention behind everything that you do. So he takes it like a level deeper, and it's like, okay, you can sit here and say, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant as much as you want, but unless you put the intention behind it, nothing's going to happen. And it's also very cool because it comes from a very spiritual base. So it has a lot of ideas about meditation and staying connected to your source. So it's very similar. It's very similar to The Secret, if you've ever read or heard of that. Although I think The Secret takes a much more materialistic point of view on creating things in your life, and this takes a more spiritual point of view. Okay, so if you're feeling more led to the spiritual point of view, then you're definitely going to like this one better than The Secret. That being said, I've read both. I enjoy both, okay? So far we have You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay and The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. Now, here's this one. This one is from Access Consciousness. So the author down there is Gary Douglas and Dane here, Dr. Dane here. Divorceless relationships. This has nothing to do with divorce for your marriage. And what it has everything to do with is how from the time we were babies, we grew up and we heard people say this or that. And whether they said it directly to us or we picked it up in the background, like from parents having a conversation or whatever, we basically decided that different parts of us were wrong, bad, shouldn't be there. and we divorce those parts of us. That's where the divorce list comes in. And what this book is doing is helping you bring back in those parts that are you, that were never meant to leave, that you gave up for some other reason, okay? And so it's helping you bring all those back into your life so that you can truly live your life authentically, okay? And the cool part about this book that's a bit different from the others is it does believe in the power of energy to clear limiting beliefs and stuff. So it gives you little, I'm trying to think of what they call it. I can't remember what they call it off the top of my head, but basically they're little statements that are in the form of a question that are meant to bring up the energy, and then they give you a clearing statement that's meant to clear out all that energy. So if you're into energetic healing, this is a great way to start doing some, energetic healing on your own, okay? And it goes through everything just like the Louise Hay one. It's split up into different chapters. So there are chapters based on relationships, finances, health. So just split up that way if you wanted to jump around in the book. And if you do get this book, I highly recommend that as you read through it, you highlight each of those statements when they get to the point where they give you the question and then the clearing statement. Highlight it each time. That way when you go back and you want to find it, you can reference it a lot easier. Okay, here's my fourth and final book if you're just going to do 4 books. Ask Your Guides by Sonia Choquette. I'm not positive I'm saying her last name correctly, so forgive me if I'm not. This is amazing if you are open to learning about angels and spirit guides. It is the most extensive one I've ever read. She goes through all the different levels of your angels and what they are, what they do, how to connect with them, what they're best used for. Like, for example, so most people have heard that they have a guardian angel, right? A lot of people, especially if you've been brought up in a Catholic house, you've learned about the archangels. Okay, so she goes through those. She also talks about like the ministry of angels, the different types of spirit guides you have, whether they're friends or family that have stayed with you as they've passed, or just other helper guides out there. Like, for example, I used my runner this morning, and this is the book I learned about the runners in. Okay, so the runner, for example, is a spirit guide that is there to help you get things, find things. So you can use it when you've lost something. And we needed to return a movie to the library today. And I had looked and looked. I had contacted my husband, and he said, well, check these few places. If I was picking up, I probably would have put it here. Couldn't find it. And I was like, duh, Sarah, ask your runners. So I was like, okay, runners, show me where this movie is. I know it's in the house. Show me where it is. Less than a minute later, I found it. And they just guided me to go back to the mantle, which is where I had looked in the first place, where my husband told me to look. And then it was there. Like the third time I looked, I have no idea what that was about. But for some reason, I wasn't seeing it the first few times I saw it. But so there's lots of really cool practical things in here for using your angels, and then ways to use your angels to connect with your higher self and to develop your own spirituality. So I think that if you guys put these books into use together, like it would just completely and totally transform your life, because it has transformed mine, and it also hugely impacts my coaching and what I do in my coaching with my clients. So I can see a lot of you have joined. A few of you, hello, hi Tiffany. A few of you have said hi. Do any of you have questions about the books before I jump off? I think I've pretty much shared what I wanted to share about each of the books without overwhelming you. But if you wanted any more information on a specific book, oh, by the way, I put 4 powerful books that will transform your life in the title. I'll go back in and edit that and actually give you the names of the books and the authors, so that if there was anyone that you liked, I can put that up. Yeah, the second book was by Dr. Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention. Actually, since you're asking about that book, let me just flip to this part in here where he talks about the 7 faces of intention. And so he uses in this book intention to replace the name of like God or spirit or however you would talk about it. So he talks about the 7 faces of intention, and I just want to share them with you because they're amazing. And they're like, after you read them, you're like, duh. But anyway, the first face is creativity, right? Because God is creation. That's where all creation comes from. The second face is kindness. The third face is love. The fourth face is beauty, which is a personal struggling point. And I know that a lot of women I've talked to, it has been a struggling point, probably because like attracts like. The fifth face is expansion. The sixth face is abundance. And the seventh is receptivity. So he gives you he gives you a few paragraphs about each one of those, and then he gives you an exercise in the book you can use to start calling those faces into your life. Okay, so starting to be the energy of those 7 items. You're welcome, Tiffany. Okay, well, if nobody else has any questions right now, that's totally cool. I'll put the 4 titles in there with the authors, and then if you do come up with questions later, let me know, and I will just respond to your comments below. Thanks so much for joining today.